There's the altcoin market cap chart on the weekly dipping. If you're like me, you're like, not only how low is this going to go, but how long is this going to last? When might we get a reversal? We have data now that's going to, I think, give us a very nice roadmap of an exact time frame to at the very least anticipate, maybe even a more conservative time frame. Right now, the fear and greed index now sits at 28, nearing extreme lows. Bitcoin dominance on the weekly, making a move that it might not seem like it to altcoin holders. So incredibly important, so incredibly bullish. I want to break that down in Ethereum and ADA. These price action dips that are occurring, all of this data that we're putting together in this video to give us a sense of time frame, how long this will last, paints a very nice picture for price action for these two charts. So I want to go over Ethereum and ADA in this video. So hit the subscribe and like on the way in if you're not in our intelligence system. Click the link below. Get set up with a free trial. Join all of our members that are coming on board and start planning, start studying the risk of these markets right now. And if you are a member, just a very quick note, and then we're going to jump into it. You know, we have our risk alerts. You can get emailed when your risk alerts get set when we're hitting certain levels. I mentioned like a month ago that text alerts are coming. I want to apologize. This is taking longer than anticipated. I did not anticipate the industry, that is the platforms that allow for these text alerts. They're one of those industries that very much still think crypto is a scam. So it's taking longer than anticipated. So we're working on it. I just want to say the fear and greed index now sits at 28, nearing extreme lows. For context, it last dropped below 10 during the COVID crash. So my first instinct when I saw this today, right, was basically to go to the chart itself. And I'm like, wow, it's at 28 and it's falling. If we're trying to identify a local bottom, you go back here, we're getting close to this 18. This was the COVID swing, or not the COVID swing though. This is the April tariff fear swing low right there. We're getting close. But then I was like, I can't make it that easy, and I need to make that more conservative. We can't say we're getting close to that bottom and the bottom's almost in like days away. What I did was, and we have a really nice Ethereum piece of data that helps this and plays right into this. I went to February. The end of February, right before March is starting. Look at this index dropping to 10. Now that was the beginning of the move. The reason I'm bringing that up is because this is going to give us a very nice time frame to watch for. Now, I'm going to show you what this looks like on the altcoin market cap chart, the Bitcoin dominance chart, and Ethereum and Cardano. But first, I want to just show you this piece of Ethereum data, because this is huge and bullish. ETH open interest sees its biggest reset since 2024. Now here we even have another piece of data that we can overlay with what we're speculating on, right? And that's the time frame of this dip. Look at this ETH open interest. Like, look at this move here. You see this move right here? Well, if you go back here, and you can't see it exactly, but this is basically looking like it's like in February, right? That first move, that was the beginning of the move. And then you can see it extended right into March. And then you can just see there's the April. I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is the April capitulation right there. So you can see that February into the beginning of April, this was that first move. Right now, it's kind of like this could be that first move. We're at the beginning of a consolidation. That might not be what you want to hear, and there's not a guarantee that this is how this will play out, but that gives us a very nice roadmap. And then when we start looking at something like gold, so gold is hovering at like all-time high areas right now. If you zoom out on gold, right, you're like, okay, wow, it's just nonstop higher highs, higher lows, breaking all-time highs. And if you go back and you look at the end of February, gold had just topped out, right? Sound familiar? Here's gold. And we started consolidating, and then boom, it topped out again in April. So here, February to April, again, is a very interesting area, a very interesting data point to now take into the crypto charts. So, and for me, this is like a more conservative approach. It could be way shorter, and it would be awesome if it is way shorter of a consolidation. But if you look now on the altcoin market cap chart, you can just see altcoins got rejected at the all-time high area once again, and we're in a consolidation. Just from a technical analysis perspective, we were talking about anyway, the normalcy of the 20 and the 50-week moving averages being revisited, not enjoyable, but normal. Well, here now is the February to April box that we've kind of established when we're looking at all of these other different data points. So that is to say, is the altcoin market cap chart falling into kind of a move like this right now? What's crazy, and I think incredibly good, is we're at a higher market cap in terms of this chart. Right now, we will be kind of approaching these key moving averages, right? So we are in I would say a more power position for altcoins to consolidate. And if you actually go to our risk models and you look at the altcoin market cap risk score right now, it's at a 22, everybody. So we are at a very healthy risk score. I mean, really in buy territory for altcoins. While this is happening. So yes, there can be more downside, and Ethereum and Cardano will give us a nice idea of what to anticipate in that regard. Before we get there, I do want to take a glance at the Bitcoin dominance chart, because here is, check it out, the February to April move on Bitcoin dominance. Why is this notable? Well, it's notable to me because we already have this 20-week finally kind of making its way towards the 50. There's no guarantee it's going to just make its move below it, right? That green below the blue. But this move pulling into that area is so normal. And it would be a good move for an altcoin season. So if we do fall into like a multi-week consolidation and Bitcoin dominance starts making a little bit of a move to the upside, just know when the 20 was falling below the 50 back here, that also happened. You can see that little pump for Bitcoin into the area and actually above those moving averages, and then boom, it fell. And then even here, when it was falling, the 20 into altcoin season, 20 below the 50, we pulled into it. So pulling into the 20 and the 50 moving averages on the weekly is not a bad thing for the Bitcoin dominance chart to do. And it's something that we would anticipate anyway. But this data, if Bitcoin dominance does get a little bit of a move like it did in February to April, maybe not that powerful, this is all suggesting Bitcoin dominance might have a little run against altcoins. And that's something just to, if it happens, know that looks like it would be pretty normal. So now we go to Ethereum charts. So as you know, we've been tracking a lot in terms of Ethereum. That is mainly the throwback to the apex, the throwback to the triangle being in play. And we got this structure on the daily chart, which was very helpful to kind of like just track how this would happen. And we did. We broke to the downside. Now we're anticipating maybe even a pullback to the triangle and then continuation. But either way, now that we have this roadmap, right? If we're thinking about in terms of time frame on Ethereum, check it out. Here's end of February, right? So there's like that end of February area. I'm going to use a fractal, not to show you like the price target move, right? But just a fractal just to visualize the length of time this could take, right? And this is what we're looking at. We could have a bad October. It might be the beginning of November and cryptos bounce, because that's how long it took back here when we had very similar data lining up, fear and greed, ETH open interest. That's how long it took for ETH to bottom. Am I saying this is the target? No, but it could look something like this. And maybe it's even not as long. Maybe it's the end of October, but we could very well visit the apex, anywhere in the apex of the triangle. And what we'll do in the meantime, if it does happen, is we'll evaluate things like the momentum oscillator on this daily chart, the RSI. Are we getting some type of, bounce out of historically low oversold areas? What's it looking like? What is that doing is something that we will be evaluating. But all the while, my point is this: we have the initial target out of the triangle, the small triangle, to like the mid 3000s. And at the end of the day, when we have throwbacks to these massive patterns, so the busted pattern came into play and we're throwing back, we could throw back to the apex. Anywhere in the apex, I think, is a good area to watch for. The 200-day moving average making its way into the triangle. So we should give it a little bit of time. It would be great if October ends up being green and, maybe we hit a target and then we're actually just bouncing to the upside and we're going bullish for the rest of Q4, right? Fine. Let's evaluate and monitor. It is possible. But I like to anticipate these more extreme scenarios that aren't even really extreme. It's conservative and it lines up with pretty much what happened back here. So, and keep in mind, I'm not talking about any of the business cycle stuff. I'm not talking about any of the legislation. I'm not talking about anything all these things that I think are incredibly bullish for crypto, altcoin ETFs, Q4, everything that's going on. Let's look at ADA. So ADA is a little bit of a different story because, if you look at ADA's price target into the 60s out of, from where it is right now, you can kind of just see it's maybe a move of like 17% or so to that area. What's, I think, bigger than the price target out of this pattern we have is probably the Fibonacci that we've established. It's a swing low back here in June, 2 swing high, and it's just this area, and it goes down to just around 61 to 62 cents. That's an area that I am monitoring for Cardano, and right confluent with that is the target of this pattern that we have. So we can see the scenario. Ethereum is dipping. ADA is dipping. They're trying to find their bottoms. Risk scores, look at this is the altcoin market cap risk score. So you can only imagine what this might be doing in a scenario where we actually are continuing this consolidation and dips. Cardano right now sitting at a 34. You could imagine what the risk model might look like for Cardano. I mean, I was joking with the guys the other day. I think yesterday maybe, I was like, we're going to need an accumulation planner. It's on our roadmap, but like we're going to need it sooner than later because we're closer to accumulation areas than we are even to exit areas. It's crazy. And it's because of the extended cycle. But going back to ADA, that's a price target I'm evaluating and monitoring for ADA. But what I wanted to make a note of is this. If you look, and this makes it a little bit more difficult than even something like Ethereum, but if we go back on this chart to the end of February, right, where we're kind of taking this piece of data, do you remember Trump's posts? So this threw off the chart a little bit is what I'm trying to say. If Trump didn't post that and we didn't get this really nice rally real quick, I always wonder where price action would have gone, right, in terms of from this moment forward. What would structure look like? Would it look not much different? Maybe we're just kind of like right here hobbling around and then falling. So that's one thing that I look at these charts, I try and do analysis. It's almost like you kind of just have to just remove this from all of it. But either way, I think one thing we've seen on Cardano ever since we pumped out of those bear market low areas is this entire consolidation from December 2024, basically, we've been in this general range, which has been it's a very small range. And so I think the higher low Fibonacci is a very important area since we've been consolidating for almost a year for ADA around this, basically this price of 78 cents, which is why a lot of ADA holders are frustrated. This higher low is a support area, I think, worth monitoring. And then obviously if things get really bad, this swing low that we did have back here in June and April of around 51 cents is an area we should watch for as well. So support potentially there. Things get crazy bad. Capitulation for altcoins. You might see ADA just capitulate below that area. That might be the bottom. But you can see how this could make its way into October. And then we're entering kind of a reset period for all of these charts. So I know this is very downside minded, but we are in a downtrend and I'm macro minded. I'm macro bullish. You all know I am. We've been anticipating this dip anyway. I would like to just explore the possibilities that the dip might continue in a similar fashion like we've seen as it aligns with all of this data, the fear and greed index, the Ethereum open interest, and all that good stuff. So just hanging in there, everybody. I'll read this because this is kind of my sentiment. For me, it's not a time to give up, complain, or regret. It's a time to keep building and planning. I feel blessed and grateful to have ended up in the crypto space, and I think there's a lot in store. I'm focused, and that's what I'm doing. I get frustrated as well, when we zoom in and we look at the price action here of these charts, and we keep thinking we're going to break all-time highs on the altcoin market cap, and it doesn't. I get it, but we can't sit in that frustration. It's a complete waste of time. We have to stay focused. I have to stay focused. I know what I think about the crypto space and the growth of this space. And kind of that's what I'm focused on in terms of crypto itself. So those are my thoughts. Hit the subscribe, hit the like on the way out if you enjoyed the content. And if you're not in our intelligent system, get back there, explore our risk models, see what's going on with our risk models, and start planning your exits. Or you can also start planning your accumulation based on these risk models as well if we're about to fall even more. So appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.